All right, so thank you for coming, everyone, this evening. My name is Jordan. I work here at the Pickering Public Library as part of the Makerspace team. And tonight we will be doing a short presentation on operating systems. This will be an intro to operating systems, specifically Windows 11. As I mentioned earlier, we're live streaming this to YouTube, so hello to the YouTube audience. And if you have any questions, just raise your hand and you can ask me. We are currently streaming, so if you have any questions, the camera will capture your question, just so that way whenever people are looking back on it, they know what the question was. But if you don't want to be recorded, just save your questions until the end after we've stopped the streaming. I also have a habit of talking really fast, so if you just need me to repeat something, just ask me to repeat it. All right, so we're going to start with just the very basics of what an operating system is, and then we're going to get into what specifically is Windows 11. Then we're going to talk a bit about how do you get Windows, and then how do you use it. If you've ever used an old version of Windows, there's a lot that's the same. They just changed a couple things. And then there's a couple new things as well. So I'll be going over several different topics in there. And then we're going to go over connecting and using the internet. And then finally, how to back up your data, followed by upgrading. So if you still have an old computer, how would you upgrade to Windows 11? Okay, so what exactly is an operating system? So an operating system, also called OS for short, is a collection of software that manages computer hardware resources, for example, your printer or monitor, and provides common services for computer programs. Basically what that means is the operating system is what allows you to use the computer at all. Without it, the computer would not be able to do many of the things that we use it for today. So for example, this error screen here that says an operating system wasn't found, if you try to turn on a computer that didn't have an operating system, this is all you would see. And then you wouldn't be able to do anything because the computer can't find any software to tell it what to do. So it's an essential component of the system, and without it, the computer would not work. There are many applications, these are also called programs, that almost always require an operating system to function. So things like Google Chrome or Microsoft Word, Microsoft PowerPoint. These are all things that we need some kind of operating system on the computer to use, or else we can't use them at all. So if you try to use Word on a computer without an operating system, you're going to get that error screen and then you won't be able to do anything. So it needs some kind of operating system on it. So basically the way the operating system works is that you, as the user, you do something to your application. So for example, let's say you're using Microsoft Word, you're trying to type up an assignment. That Word sends a message to the operating system, which then sends a message to the motherboard and hardware on the computer, and then that sends the output back, and then you see what you're typing on the screen. So it basically keeps working in a continuous loop. You do something on the computer, the application sends a message, and then you see the result on the screen, and then so on, as long as you're using the computer. So there's several different operating systems. So today the focus is on Windows, but there's also other operating systems like Mac OS or iOS, if any of you have a MacBook or an iPhone or an iPad. Apple has their own operating system. There's also Android, for any of you who have a Samsung or Google phone or any of the other many Android vendors. There's also Chrome OS, if you've ever heard of a Chromebook. That's Google's operating system that they use. And then there's also Linux, if any of you are interested in open source operating systems. So the primary function of the operating system is to mainly interact with hardware, so that's your keyboard, your mouse, your displays, your printers. It's one of the main primary functions that people use operating systems. It also indexes and manages your drives, files, and folders. So this makes it easy for you to look at all the files on your computer and arrange them however you'd like. And then the last thing is to launch applications. So we can use the internet, we can use Microsoft Word, we can use Excel, and so on. So here is the Dawson progression of Windows. So you can see here where Windows started at the very beginning. It was just text-based, and then they slowly introduced more and more graphics, and the graphics got nicer and nicer until we get to today with Windows 11 in the bottom right. So now what is Windows 11? So Windows is an operating system created by Microsoft. And it's the entire package that allows the computer to view and edit files, open programs, access the internet, etc. So Windows 11 is the latest version. So they've started from Windows 1 all the way up to Windows 11, which is the current one. Windows 11 isn't free. You normally have to pay for it, but it does come for free on many computers and laptops that you buy at the store. So most of the times, you already have Windows 11 installed, unless you're buying something, a specific type of laptop. So for example, up here, we've got several different types. So the one on the far left is the Windows one. So you can see it says that it comes with Windows 11. Whereas the second one is an Apple MacBook. So that one comes with Apple's operating system, which is the Mac OS. And then the third one there, it's a Chromebook. So that one's going to come with the Chrome OS. So if you're ever buying a new laptop, always check to make sure which type of laptop you're buying so you know what operating system it's going to come with. So if you know you need Windows for some specific reason, you don't want to accidentally buy a Chromebook or a MacBook and then you don't get Windows.
What's the advantage of Windows?
So most of the time, there are many specific programs that only work on Windows. Because Windows is the most primarily used operating system for computers. Most new software programs are designed specifically for Windows, and then they usually generate support for like Mac and Linux later. Most of the times it's Windows first. But likewise, there's also certain software that only work on a Mac. So if you need to use something that's Mac specific, then you want to make sure you get the MacBook and not the Windows, because then Apple might not have made it available on Windows yet.
Well, I just bought this computer a couple weeks ago, and I had to buy $177 that only exactly with Windows 11 that I had to buy on top of the computer.
Okay, so yours might have been one that didn't come with it pre-installed, so they made you buy it as well. Yeah, because most of the times it's supposed to come with it, so hopefully it was a very good laptop.
I know the guys at the store, anything for a buck, brother.
Yeah. So here's another one. So this is a desktop computer that is being sold with no operating systems. So usually the ones with no operating system, hopefully you got a deal on yours, because usually those ones are cheaper because they don't come with an operating system. If you tried to turn this on, you would just get that error message we saw before where there's no operating system.
Is it saying that computer's $109?
Yeah, so.
Whole computer?
I mean, but this one's like a mini one. So in the description, it says it's a Dell USFF. So that just means like it's ultra small form factor. So it's like a very thin, very small, like it's not a very powerful computer, but you could still like do some light browsing and stuff on it.
Okay. No worries.
All right, so how do you get Windows? So if your computer doesn't come with Windows, you can buy it. Right now it is $189, and it is, most of the times it's a one-time purchase. As I said before though, your computer, most of the times, except in your case, they're supposed to come with Windows, but if you do have to buy it, you can buy it directly from Microsoft's website, or you can buy it at a computer store like Best Buy or Canada Computers.
Yeah, that's what mine was $189. Yeah.
Yep, so there's several different versions of Windows. So right now there's 3 versions. There's the S version. You can't buy the S version. You can only get it pre-installed on a laptop or computer. There is the home version, which is the most common one, the one that most people have. And then there's the Pro version, which has a couple extra features that the home version doesn't. Most of the times, 9 times out of 10, the home version is more than enough for what most people use it for. The Pro version, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later, has some extra features, but most of the times the home version is the one you need.
How do you know what your version is?
So that would be in the settings of your computer. It should tell you which version of Windows you have. And that's something I'll talk about a little bit later. So the S mode is a streamlined version of Windows. So this one is designed to run better on hardware with lower specs. So the reason that this mode exists is because Chromebooks became pretty popular. And one of the nice things about Chromebooks is that they were really cheap because they didn't need powerful components, because all they were designed to do was to browse the internet and check your email and watch YouTube. So what Microsoft did was they created the S mode, which doesn't have all the features of the full version of Windows, which allows it to run well on weaker hardware so they can sell the laptops for cheaper. One of the limitations on it, though, is that you can only download apps from the Microsoft Store. So if you have a specific software you need and it's not in the Microsoft Store, it won't let you put it onto the device. You will get this error message when you try to do it, because in order to keep that streamlined performance, they limit what you can put on the laptop. However, they do give you an option to switch out of S mode, and then this will change the computer from Windows S mode into the home version, which will give you access to download the things you need. But then now that you're running the full version of Windows, you might run into some performance issues. So you kind of have to think about whether that's something you're okay with, or if it's better to just stay in the S mode. The home version is the most common version that comes with most laptops and computers. And this version allows you to do pretty much everything you'd want to do on a day-to-day basis. You can download programs, you can use the internet, you can do pretty much everything on it. One of the only real limitations is that you can't transfer the license to a different computer. If you want to do that, you would need to upgrade to the Pro version. So for the Pro version, in addition to doing that, you can also, it also has some extra features that might be useful to businesses. So for example, the Pro version comes with a Windows Information Protection Service, and that allows you to help encrypt the data on the device. So if you're like running a business and you have some important data on your phone, you can use this service with BitLocker to encrypt your device, so that way it's harder for people to gain access to the information that's on it. Another thing you can do is something called virtualization, and basically it's kind of like running a mini computer inside your existing computer. And the purposes of that is mainly if you're doing like testing. So if you're like if you want to create your own software program, or you want to create your own, you're creating your own website, you can do this virtualization to do like a test in specific environments that you might otherwise not be able to. So these are things that generally, like your day-to-day use, like you're not going to need to do those things. So those things are saved for the Pro version. If you're planning on starting a business, that's something you could look into, but most of the times the home version is more than enough. Okay, so how do you install Windows? So if your computer doesn't have Windows already installed, you can create an installation medium. Or if you're already running Windows on the computer, so like Windows 10 or 7, you can just download this Windows 11 installation assistant, and it will run the upgrade on your computer. You can also create the installation media, which will save the Windows 11 download to like a CD or a USB, and then you can put it on the computer that you want to install it on, and then just plug it in or put in the CD, and then it will install it off of that. Okay, so it is actually possible to use Windows 11 without paying for it. So what Windows 11 does is that if you don't have a license, it still allows you to use the Windows 11, but it has this, this in the bottom right corner that says activate Windows, go to settings, activate Windows. So it allows you to use it. It just puts this watermark on your screen that just reminds you that you need to activate Windows. It also blocks some customization features. So for example, you can't change your background, you can't change the theme of your Windows. It limits some of the things you're able to do, but it does let you, like for example, use the internet. You can still download software. It just constantly reminds you to that you could buy Windows to get the full features. So this can be useful if you wanted to just test out Windows to see if it actually works on your computer before you buy the full license. So that's another option that you could do. Okay, so can you install Windows on a Chromebook? So let's say you saw a really good computer on sale, you bought it, you go home, but then it turns out it's a Chromebook and you need Windows to download something. For certain Chromebooks, it is possible to download Windows onto them, doing this like this installation media method. The problem though is that it doesn't work on all Chromebooks. It only works on certain ones. And then even on the ones it does work on, because Chromebooks are designed to be cheaper computers with lower specs, it might not run properly on that computer. So even though this is something you can do, it's not usually recommended unless it's a very powerful Chromebook. And then let's say instead you buy a Mac and then you decide you want Windows. So Apple has a software called Parallels that you can get, and it allows you to run Windows on the MacBook. So that's one way you can get around. You still have to pay. You have to pay for the Parallels, and then you have to pay for the Windows license. But this is a way that allows you to have the benefits of having both a Mac and a Windows. The performance will vary depending on your Mac computer. Most of the times it's fine, unless you have like a very old Mac computer. So it's just recommended to check online just to make sure that the MacBook that you have is one that will run fine with Windows. So we have a YouTube video here that you can watch when I won't play it now, but it'll be included in the slideshow as I sent it out. Basically, it just runs you through the first time setup of Windows 11 where it'll ask you several questions. So for example, like, where's your time, where are you located? What's your time zone? What keyboard layout do you want? What's your Wi-Fi, and so on. So they've been adding more accessibility features as well, such as having a voiceover option, so you can have it speak it to you, what each of the options are. And then you can also choose an option to verbally give your answers instead of clicking or typing it in. And then once you create your account, you will be logged into your desktop. So this is something you'll do the very first time you get your Windows 11 computer. You'll have to do this setup. And then once you do that, you will see the desktop. So this is what you'll see whenever you start up your Windows computer and log in. So there's two main parts to the desktop computer. So we have the shortcuts that are located on the top part of the desktop. And then at the very bottom, we have the taskbar. So I'll start with the shortcuts in your files. And the shortcuts here provide you with quick access to your programs and folders that are on the computer. Most of the time when you install a new program on your computer, so say you download Word, you download Excel, it'll automatically create these shortcuts for you. So that way you can just click on it and then you can open up the program. You can also save files on the desktop. If you've ever used our public computers, it's very easy to find your files if you save them on the desktop, because then you can just click on it and open it up if you need to. You may have noticed, one thing to keep in mind though is that your desktop can get very cluttered if you save a lot of files on it. So you may want to just try to watch out that you're not saving too many things on there. All right, so With your computer mouse, there's two buttons on there. So you have your left button and your right button for a left click and a right click. And each of them do different things depending on what you want to do. Some of most, all laptops come with a trackpad that you can use instead of a mouse. But I find most of the times having a mouse is just easier to use. And you can just, if you ever find that your trackpad is giving you issues, you can always just buy a mouse, plug it in, and use that instead. All right, so let's say I have this icon, this Google Chrome icon on the desktop. If you right-click it, it brings up this menu that gives you some options of things you can do with Chrome. But if you double-click it, then that actually opens up Chrome so that you can use it. So depending on whether you want to use Chrome or you want to modify something about it, that determines whether you're going to do the left click or if you're going to do the right click. So as a general rule of thumb, double left clicking is when you want to open up something on the desktop or to open up a file that's on your computer. This is something that you only really need to do when you're on the Windows desktop or in the Windows file management system. If you're on the internet, you won't ever need to double click most of the time. You also don't need to double right click. It's really only double left clicking, and that's just to open a file or a program that's on your computer. So just to summarize all that, so basically left clicking is when you want to open up a program, you want to navigate a website or to select an option. And then right clicking is when you want to modify it in some way. So like doing like a copy and paste, you want to create a folder or a shortcut, or you want to open a file in a different program than usual. So if you've used the older version of Windows, like Windows 7, you may have noticed that they've altered the right-click menu a little bit. So the one on the right is what the right-click menu used to look like, and now they've kind of they've changed it up a bit in Windows 11 to make it a bit more modern. So one of the things they did was the main options like cut, copy, and delete have now been turned into these icons that are at the very top of the menu, so that now instead of like here you can see it's like near the bottom we have the cut, the copy, and the delete, but now they've turned it into these icons that are near the top. One of the main downsides though is that it doesn't tell you what they are, so it can be a bit tricky to know what it is, so I've labeled them here. So we have the scissors for cut, we have the two sheets for copy, this one here with the clipboard is paste. We have like a little like text bar for rename. You have share with the little arrow, and then we have the garbage can for delete. A nice thing that they did add though is that if you hold down the shift key on your keyboard while you're right clicking, it'll bring up the old style menu. So if you don't like how this looks, you can hold down the shift key and right click and it'll give you the old menu back. You can also click here where it says show more options, and then they'll also switch it back to the old menu as well. So this was one of the things that surprised me as well, because the right click menu looked like this for so long, and it took me a bit to get used to this change. But you can hold down the shift key and right click to go back to the original one if you prefer that. All right, so to access your files on Windows 11, they have a program called File Explorer. And in order to access it, you can either have a shortcut on the desktop. So for example, on our public computers, we have a shortcut for the downloads folder. You can also find it in your taskbar. There's like a little yellow folder icon that you can use. And then in the start menu, we also have the yellow folder here for File Explorer. So once you click on any of those, it'll bring up a list of your files and folders that are in your computer, and then you're able to access and rearrange them as you need to. All right, so just as a quick example here, so here is one of my files on the desktop. So I can go into my photos, and then here I can take a look at my photos. I can double click them if I want to open them up. Or if I want to do something with it, I can right click it, and then that brings up, again, the menu. So there is an option you can toggle on so that it adds the text underneath. So that way you can know which one's cut, which one's copy, and so on. So if I wanted to, I could right click here, I can create a new folder, and then let's say I want to make a folder for my songs. Windows usually has a music folder by default, but let's just say, for example, I can create one, and then now I can move any music files into this folder so that they're all organized. All right, and then every window in Windows has these three buttons on the top right corner. So you've got the minimize, which will hide the window but not close it. We've got the maximize, so this will resize the screen so it takes up the full screen size. And then we've got the close, which is the X at the end, and then that's what you click when you want to close the program. Bless you. So just to show that again, so we've got the line here to minimize, so that just hides it, but it's still open in the background. Then we've got the square for maximize, so I can make it the full size of the screen, or I can click it again to bring it back down to the size it was before. And then finally, we've got close here so that I can close it, and then it's gone. All right, so now we're going to talk about the taskbar that's at the bottom of the screen. And so we can split up the taskbar into 4 parts. We've got the widgets on the far left side, the start button, which is the blue 4 squares near the middle. We have the quick launch bar, which is right beside it. And then finally, we have the action center, which is on the far right side. By default, the taskbar is always open on your computer screen, so you can always see it at the bottom. But there are different options that you can set to hide it. That's something that can be useful on if you have a laptop or a very small monitor, like a laptop with a small screen. Hiding the taskbar can help give you some extra space on the screen because the taskbar is always taking up a little bit of space at the bottom. And hiding it is a way to help you utilize the full size of the screen. So first we'll talk about the start menu, which is the 4 blue squares. So whenever you click on it, it's going to bring up the start menu, which is this menu here, which will give you quick access to your most used or pinned programs. Right here, you can also do a search. So if there's a specific program you want to use, you can type it into the search and it'll find it for you. You can also see down here it has some recommended, and it also gives you access to log in and out of your accounts here or shut down the computer over here. You can also get access to your settings. So as we mentioned before, if you want to find out what version of Windows you have, you can open up the start menu, go into settings, and then you can find out what version of Windows you have in there.
Start menu, that's the 4 squares?
Pardon?
So when you said the start menu, that's the 4 squares on the bottom?
Yep.
If you hit that, it'll tell you what computer.
So if you click that, it'll bring up this menu, and then you're going to click settings right over here. Yeah.
And then where's the setting?
So once you click, oh, you got it? Yeah. And then on the left-hand side, you'll see, I'll talk about it a bit later, but on the left-hand side, there's a section for your system where you can see what version you have. So next we have the quick launch in main taskbar, and then this is what's beside the start button. And then this is where you can find these icons that give you access to certain programs. So what you can do is you can edit your quick launch bar to include the programs you use the most. So that way you can have quick access to them at any time. So for example, here you can see like Edge, we can see Chrome and Firefox. So you can just click on these icons and it'll open it up for you without needing to go to the desktop or having to search for it. You can just click on the icon that's there. You also notice these little like circles underneath. So this blue one means the program you're currently using. So the fact that it's under Chrome means that right now Chrome is the program that's open on the computer. And then these gray circles means that these are running in the background. So this user also has Paint open, and then they also have Microsoft Edge open, but they're open in the background. Right now Chrome is the active window. And you can just click on these to switch between the different programs that you have open. So that way you don't have to keep closing them down. You can just click on the icons down here, and then you can switch between all of the stuff that you have open. All right, so if you want to customize your desktop, if you right-click anywhere on the desktop, it'll bring up this menu here, and then you want to pick either display settings or personalize. And then from there, you can change several different settings. So for example, you could turn on the night light, and that's useful when you're using your computer at night because it adds like an orange tint to the screen because there's some studies that show that the blue light from the computer screen keeps you awake. So you can turn that on and it'll turn off some of the blue light from the screen so that it doesn't strain your eyes as much to use at night. You can also do things like adjust the scale. So if the computer screen is too small, you can raise the scale to make the screen a bit larger so that it's easier to read. You can do things like change the orientation if you're using a different type of monitor, and so on. There's several different options that you can change here. Also multiple displays. So if you want to connect your computer to a TV or a second monitor, you can do that from the display settings, and you can decide how to control the second display from here. Personalization lets you change the background and style of Windows. So you can see here, like this is the default style, but you've also got like a dark mode. You've got a version with like different colors. You can change the background. So by default, it's this, but you can choose like a photo you really like, or like you can find an image on the internet and use that as your background. You could have like a folder of different pictures that it cycles through. You can play around with a whole lot of things in here to personalize your Windows desktop. But these two things are one of the things that are locked on guest accounts or if you're using an unlicensed version of Windows. So these settings will be locked until you buy the full version. So here's some examples of some different personalized Windows desktops. So you can see, like, you can choose different backgrounds. You can even move the start menu. The older versions of Windows have the start menu on the left side, so you can change it back to that. You can put it on the left side of your screen. There's a lot of different things you can do to personalize your desktop. All right, and then finally, we're going to talk about the systems tray and the action center. So this is on the right side of the taskbar beside where it shows you the time and date. And what this allows you to do is it allows you to access various settings within Windows, specifically relating to your sound and your Wi-Fi, as well as other programs and ejecting USBs. So we've got this little caret or this like triangle symbol right here. And when you click on it, it will bring up the icons that each correspond to like different features. So for example, like this one is for the USB, this one is for Bluetooth, and so on. So if there's a specific thing you need to do, like you're trying to eject your USB and you don't see it here, it might be compiled in here. So just click on the triangle to expand it, and then you can access your USB. So this is something that's really important for if you use your USBs a lot. You want to make sure you safely eject it so that when you take out the USB, you minimize the chances of any data getting corrupted when you take it out. So you just click on the USB icon. It'll bring up this menu here, so you can click eject, and then it'll show you the name of the USB. And then you'll get this notification that says it's safe to remove the USB, and then you can take it out. Windows has been improving their code, so if you take out your USB while it's running, it's not as big of a risk as it used to be to get the data corrupted. But I always say it's better to be safe than sorry in these situations. It's just better to safely eject your USBs. It's just better to be on the safe side. So notifications usually pop up in the bottom right-hand corner by the Action Center. And these can be different things. So for example, this is the safe to remove the USB one. You might get one when you're connected to the internet. You might get a pop-up if you get an email, for example. You can get, there's a variety of different reasons you can get a notification. You can always check to see if the notification is important before dismissing it. If the notification isn't anything important, you can just click on the X and then they'll close it. Most of the important notifications you can still see by clicking this blue eye right here, and then it'll show you any previous notifications that you haven't dismissed yet. All right, so how do you connect to the internet on your computer? So in your bottom right-hand corner by the time, you'll see this globe symbol here. So this globe symbol has a little circle with a cross through it, and then that means right now it's not connected to the internet. So what you're going to do is if you click on it, so first, if you don't have Wi-Fi, you can buy one of these Ethernet adapters. So this lets you plug your computer directly into your router to get internet that way. Most computers nowadays, like computers used to have this built into them, not so much anymore. So you can buy these from Best Buy or Canada Computers. And then likewise, if your computer doesn't have Wi-Fi, you can buy one of these USB antennas, and then you just plug it into your computer, and then you'll be able to connect to Wi-Fi networks. So when you open up the Action Center, it'll bring up this window here, and then we can click on, so this is the Wi-Fi symbol right here. And then you can click on this little triangle here, and then that will show you the available networks. So if you're here at the library, for example, you want to look for the library Wi-Fi, and then when you click on it, it'll show you here. So right now I am connected, so I could disconnect if I want to. But if you're not connected, this will instead say connect, and then you can click on it to connect to the internet. And then if you're doing this at home, your home network probably has a password, so you'll need to put that in as well. And then your computer will be able to connect to your Wi-Fi.
So here at the library, you gotta use the password for the library.
No, so our Wi-Fi doesn't have a password, so you can just connect to it. One thing to keep in mind though is that, so if you have the Ethernet port, which is you're gonna plug your computer directly into your router, most of the times you don't need a password for that. It'll just connect automatically. All right, so there's different internet browsers that you can use. All copies of Windows 11 come with Microsoft Edge, which is this blue one here. So that's the Microsoft's new version of Internet Explorer. If any of you remember Internet Explorer, Edge is the newest version of that. And they've improved it quite a bit. It's really good. A lot of people still prefer Google Chrome, which is this one right over here. This is the most popular web browser made by Google, and a lot of people still prefer to use it, even though Edge is also really good.
Edge is Chromium based too, right?
Yeah, so Edge is based on Chrome, so it's almost the exact same code running inside of it. And then third, you have Firefox. One of the nice things about Firefox is that it is the company that owns it is more open to like add-ons and customization, so you can download additional things onto it. And basically, they all run pretty good. It's just personal preference which one you prefer. Okay, so now we can get into the settings. So as I mentioned earlier, you can get to the settings by either going to the start menu and clicking on the settings gear. If it's not there, you can also search for the settings. Also in the Action Center, there's a small gear in the bottom right corner. And if you click on that, that will also bring you to the settings. So this gives you access to many different settings in your computer that you can change and adjust. So you have a whole list of different groupings here. So you can like go to System, Bluetooth devices, Network, and Internet. You can also search specifically. So like say you want to do something with like your mouse or your keyboard, you can just type in mouse or keyboard here, and then you'll be able to search for it. So from your system, from your settings window, you can also do your Windows updates. So that's by clicking this right here. So this will tell you whether you're up to date or if there's an update that's needed. So right now it says attention needed. So that means there's an update that needs to be installed. So if there's a Windows update you need to install, just click download and install, and then it will download it in the background so you can still use the computer. It's not until it's done downloading that it'll tell you it has to restart and install your updates. It used to be the case that once your downloads were done installing, Windows would say, I'm going to shut down in 2 minutes, finish up what you're doing so I can install the updates. But now it won't install the updates until you turn off the computer. So it'll wait for you now. It's not going to do it on its own. Another nice thing too is that before you were forced to install the updates the first time you shut down the computer. So sometimes here at the library, we'd be helping someone, and then as we're closing, they need to install updates. So they can't leave because they need to download the updates for the computer before they could shut it down. But luckily now you can choose to shut down, and then you can install the updates at another time. Another thing is some updates are optional, but it's still recommended that you install updates as soon as they come up because they fix vulnerabilities, they fix security issues that could be happening, so it helps protect your computer from viruses. So it's always recommended to install the updates as soon as they're available. So before I go on to that though, and then just to go back to finding out what version of Windows you have, if you go to System over here on the left-hand side, it will, one of the options will say About, and then that'll tell you all the specs of your system and what version of Windows you have. So that would be in there. Yeah, so I'm going to go to System, and then I'm going to go down to About here. Yeah, so I can see that. So this one is 11 Enterprise. So that's essentially like the Business Pro version, essentially. So you would be able to see it right there. So I'm just going to show that again. So you go into System, scroll down to About, and then it would tell you here which version of Windows that you have. All right, so another important thing is backing up your data. So data loss can happen at any time. Unfortunately, like you could be downloading an update and your computer accidentally powers down in the middle of the update and it corrupts your computer. There could be like a flood or a fire and you lose access to your laptop. How do you back up your files? So one popular way of doing it is to keep a physical backup. So this is where you either back up everything onto an external hard drive. So this is either a USB, an SD card, or a portable hard drive. And that way you can keep it somewhere safe. And if in case anything ever happens to your computer, you can restore your data from that USB, SD card, or hard drive, and then reinstall it onto the computer. Using a portable hard drive is highly recommended over the other two options because portable hard drives store data for much longer than a USB or an SD card. They have much longer storage life, so they're able to hold the data for much longer periods of time than the other two. They can also usually hold much more space, so you can buy, like, for example, a 4 or 5 terabyte portable hard drive, so you can store like a whole bunch of things on there. There are bigger USB and SD cards coming out, but portable hard drive is the largest so far. So Windows used to have a built-in backup and restore option, and it still does, but they haven't really updated it since Windows 7. So that's why it's called Backup and Restore Windows 7. That's not because it only works with Windows 7. It's just because they haven't updated it since Windows 7. So that's something you can use to create your backup, but it's not, because they don't support it anymore, it's something that could get discontinued at any time. So if you want to do like a very large backup, like you want to back up your entire computer, it's recommended to use like a third-party software. So something like Aume, Macrium, or Veeam, something like that to do like if you want to do like a very large backup. If you're just backing up like a couple files, like say you just want to back up like your pictures or your documents, you can just get a portable hard drive, plug it in, and then just copy things over onto it. So portable hard drives can be commonly found at 1 terabyte or higher. When you want to make a backup, make sure you get one that is at least the size of your hard drive. So if you have, like, for example, like a 1 terabyte storage on your laptop, you don't want to buy a 500 gigabyte hard drive because then you won't be able to save everything onto there.
How do you know what size you have on your computer?
So that would be inside your file explorer. So when you go to this PC here, so I can see right here, Windows C, it says that it's 455 gigabytes on this computer, and it says here I have 215 gigabytes free. So that's how much space I have left on this computer.
Oh.
Yeah, so when you open up your files, you just click this PC on the left-hand side, and then it'll show all your hard drives. So I only have one in this laptop, so that's why it only shows one. But if you have like a hard drive computer with multiple hard drives, it'll list them all here as well as all their storage spaces.
Why would you have different hard drives?
So if you have like a large desktop computer, you can store multiple hard drives in there. So you can have like, for example, you can have one that's your main one that's a backup. You can have one for like work stuff. Like you can have one for like different things. Yeah. Or for example, like say your hard drive gets filled up, then you can just add another one in. That's not always something you can do with a laptop. Most laptops are designed with just one hard drive inside. There are some that have two, but that's something you would need to like look up beforehand. The most reliable brands when it comes to hard drives are usually Samsung, WD, and Seagate. They're usually the ones with the highest reviews. Another thing to look out is for higher USB numbers will have faster transfer speeds. So if you look at the ones that are here, it might be a bit hard to read. Excuse me. Some of them say USB 3.0 and some of them say USB 3.2. The ones that are 3.2 will be much faster than the ones that are 3.0. And then likewise, the ones that are 3.0 are much faster than 2.0. The only reason that's important here is because when you're transferring such a large number of files, like say you're copying all your photos from your computer to a hard drive, you can cut the time in half if you use like a 3.0 USB speed over something that's 2.0, for example. So that could be like an hour's worth of time saved copying things. So if you're going to get a hard drive, usually the higher the USB speed, the better. If you see one like that's like really, really cheap, like it seems too good to be true, chances are it's probably like a USB 2.0 speed. So that's something you may want to look out for if you want to get a portable hard drive. All right, so the other option is instead of making a physical backup, you can do a digital backup via cloud storage. So all copies of Windows 11 come with a free 5 gigabytes of OneDrive. And basically what that means is your files will be stored on Microsoft servers that are in the States. And what that means is that you can access them from any computer, whether you're using your Windows computer, whether you're using your phone in another country, whether you're using your friend's laptop on the other side of the country, you can always access your files via Microsoft's OneDrive. So the upside is that you can access it from anywhere as long as you're connected to the internet. So you can be on the other side of the world, you can be across the country, you can be on someone else's computer, and you can always access them without needing to plug anything in. You just sign into your Microsoft account, go to your OneDrive, and then your files are there. Downside, though, is that whereas with a portable hard drive, it's you pay for it once and then that's it. With cloud storage, you have to pay a subscription. So it's every month or every year, you pay so much money and you keep all your files. They give you 5 gigabytes for free, but 5 gigabytes is very small. It's smaller than most USBs these days because most USBs are 8 gigabytes. So once that fills up, then you're going to start getting those notifications. Your storage is full. Do you want to pay to extend it, and so on. This is the same thing with Google Drive, Samsung Drive, Apple's cloud storage. They all work the same way. You're essentially saving your files on their servers so that you can access them.
How do you know which one of those is a scam?
So none of them are scams. They're all pretty good. It's just which one best suits your needs. So for example, like say you have an iPad, you have an iPhone, chances are Apple's iCloud is probably the best option for you and you don't need OneDrive, for example.
I get these notifications that like 10 times a day they're saying your storage is full, delete all your files. They've been saying that for months. They never do it.
Yeah, so that's the one thing, like, because if you have, for example, like you have iCloud, most of the times they turn these options on by default. So as soon as you get the device, it automatically turns it on. So you're already filling it up as soon as you start using your device. So it won't delete. Yeah.
You know, I have the same issue with the ads. I get getting told that my iCloud is full, and that I better buy this and that.
Yeah.
I went to a couple places and said, "Well, it's just a scam."
Yeah. So it's like not a scam in that you don't get what you pay for, but you don't need to pay for it essentially because it's telling you that the iCloud storage is full, but your phone storage is fine. So technically, they're not lying to you because the iCloud storage is full, but you don't need to buy it. They just keep bombarding you with pop-ups.
Actually,
Yeah.
I like, because they keep saying, today's date, we're gonna delete all your photos and files. They never do. Like,
Yeah.
they're like extortionists, but they're stupid.
It's because
I know that iCloud is Apple, so that has nothing to do with Microsoft.
Yeah.
So just a little side thing that I wanted to point out.
yeah, like the only way to like turn off those notifications completely is to just not use it. So turn off the backups, take your files and put them somewhere else, and then they'll
So
stop
Google
notifying
has
you.
Google Drive, Microsoft has OneDrive, and Apple has iCloud. So just to be aware of the differences.
Yeah, I think mine's second one.
Yeah, but because we're talking about Windows tonight, that really doesn't have much to do with iCloud. So that's a separate issue, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, so, but we could probably do like maybe like a one-on-one appointment or something for that.
Sure.
So if you did want to do if you did want to do the OneDrive backup, when you go into your settings, you would click this option here for OneDrive folder syncing. So there's an option here to set up the syncing. So basically you would pick which folders on your computer you want to get backed up. And then it would tell you up here where it says OneDrive. Right now it says not syncing because it's not set up. But then once you set it up here, it'll tell you whether it's syncing or not. Yeah?
Will it always keep all the files that you had in the 5 gigabytes and then not store any more after that?
Yeah, so basically once it fills up, it'll still save the files on your computer, it just doesn't back them up to the OneDrive. But they'll still bombard you with the messages that your OneDrive is full.
But the initial one, the 5 in the 5 gig is there though.
Yeah.
You can access it anytime, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And they can't delete it, like they say.
No, they won't delete the at least 5 gigabytes worth. I find that more often than not, they're very forgiving because they want you to buy it, essentially. So I find most of the times, even though they say they delete it, they might. It just depends on because sometimes they want you to pay for it eventually. So they might not delete it right away, but at the same time they could. So it's just whether you want to play with it or not. But most of the times, that doesn't affect what's on your computer. That only affects what's in the OneDrive. So as long as the files you really want are backed up somewhere else, then it shouldn't matter if they're removed from the OneDrive because they should still be on your in your main backup. All right, and then we've also got multiple user profiles. So this can be useful if you're sharing your computer with multiple people, or you want to have like separate, like maybe you want like a personal profile for when you're at home, and then you want to have a work profile for when you're working from home. So this helps you split them up, so that way you can have separate work environments that don't necessarily overlap with each other. So basically, the very first account you create is the administrator account. That's your main account. And then that's the one that creates and manages the other accounts. So this allows you, so then each person who uses the computer can customize their experience, and then it doesn't affect the other people that you also use the computer. So the way you do this is in settings, you would click here where it says accounts. Then you would click here for other accounts, and then it gives you the option to add another user. And then you can click that, and then it'll run you through the setup again, so you can give them a name, give them a password. You can decide whether you want to attach it to another account. And then, let's say you have someone else who wants to use the computer. You can create them their own account, and then that way they can still use the computer, but then it won't mess up anything that's on your main account.
Well, I just got one just this second. It's saying, we're gonna delete your stuff. Is this like, is this a scam, or how does it work?
Oh, so this one's definitely a scam.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's like a fake email.
How do I block them so they can't keep sending it?
So that'll show you at the end of the class.
Okay.
Yeah,
And we're getting somewhere now.
yeah. So this only works if you're currently on the administrator account. If you're on one of the other accounts that's under, it won't let you actually create an account. It just lets you add, like, for example, like a second mail account or something like that. But you have to be on the administrator account in order to create other accounts on the computer. All right, and then we're going to talk about upgrading from Windows 10. So let's say you have an old Windows 10 computer and you want to upgrade it to Windows 11. As of October of last year, Windows 10 is no longer officially supported. So that means Microsoft is no longer releasing updates for Windows 10. So you can still use your Windows 10 computer, but because they're not getting updates from Microsoft, that means it's now vulnerable to malware because it's not getting updates anymore. So you can still use your Windows 10 devices, but it's recommended you have a third-party anti-malware software that still supports Windows 10. So that way your computer will still be protected. Or just don't save anything important on that computer. So if your computer is able to upgrade to Windows 11, you should see this message in your settings when you go to Windows Update. It'll tell you that your computer is able to upgrade and it's free. And then you can just click this button here and it'll download and install Windows 11. Or if you don't want to, you can choose to stay on Windows 10. If your computer is not able to upgrade to Windows 11, you can download this app called the PC Health Check app, and it'll tell you why your computer can't upgrade to Windows 11. So in this example here, it says that this computer's processor is too old and isn't supported by Windows 11. Unfortunately, on a laptop, you can't change the processor on a laptop, so this computer is going to be stuck on Windows 10.
So it's kind of throw the computer away?
No, so you can still use it, just don't save anything like important on it. Or if you want to get like a third-party anti-malware program, you can use that to like scan for viruses and stuff while you're using the computer. So things you want to consider when you're upgrading to Windows 11 is, does the laptop's manufacturer support Windows 11? So for example, when the very first time I ran this workshop was back when Windows 11 was still new. And this computer here was Windows 10 and I upgraded it to Windows 11, but the manufacturer didn't fully support Windows 11 on this computer yet. So when I plugged the HDMI to the TV, it didn't work because they didn't make that feature work on Windows 11 yet. The driver wasn't available for this computer. So that's something you may want to consider. Does the laptop manufacturer have drivers for Windows 11? Another important thing is, do I have a backup? Again, anything can go wrong. You could be doing the upgrade to Windows 11 and then there's a power surge and the power goes out and then your computer turns off and now the data is corrupted. So you want to always make sure you have a backup just in case something goes wrong. You can restore from that backup and get your files back and then try again. If your computer supports Windows 11 but you don't like it, they do give you 10 days to freely downgrade back to Windows 10. Of course, you shouldn't do that now because Windows 10 is no longer supported, but the option is still there. Same thing with upgrading. If you want to downgrade back to Windows 10, again, have a backup ready just in case, because if you're downgrading to Windows 10 and the power goes out, the data might get corrupted and then you'll be stuck in that situation again. So have a backup ready just in case. And then if after those 10 days you still decide you want to go back to Windows 10 and you haven't done it, it does let you downgrade, but you have to do a full reinstallation of Windows 10. So, and in that case, you'll definitely need a backup because to do a full reinstallation might delete your files. All right, so in conclusion, as an operating system, Windows 11 gives you access to much needed applications and the ability to browse the internet. And while changing a lot of features, Windows 11 still allows you to customize a lot of things and retains many core features from the older versions of Windows. And then while many older computers might not run Windows 11, you can still use Windows 10 computers even with the drop support. You just have to be more vigilant about the places, the websites, and usage of those computers. All right, and then that's the end of the workshop. So if you have any final questions, feel free to ask, or if you want to wait until we stop the stream, you can do that as well. If you think of any questions after today, you can either send them to help@pickeringlibrary.ca, or when I send out the slides in the follow-up email, you can reply to that with your question, and then I'll answer it. So are there,
What's the difference of this Chromebook and this Motorola? And then the 111 there, what do you call it? This is a,
yeah, so that one's a Chromebook. So
it's a 1011, what it is.
So the big difference between the Windows and the Chromebook is that there's certain software like Microsoft Word that you won't be able to download onto the Chromebook, or like say you wanted to do like graphic design, you wouldn't be able to download like Photoshop on a Chromebook. But you would be able to download those on a Windows computer. But you could still use Word if you access it through the website. So if you go to Microsoft's Office website, you can still access Word through that. But the main downside is that you have to be connected to the internet. You won't be able to use it offline.
But this one is Motorola, they're similar.
Yeah. So that one's an Android phone.
Which one is about this or this? They're similar. So
So they're both based on Linux, but they both work very differently.
But which one is about this or this?
Which one is?
This
They
one.
serve different purposes.
Yeah. So because
One is a phone, one is a
Yeah, but it's
computer.
almost the same thing.
If you're doing emails, I mean, I prefer doing email on a bigger screen, so it really depends. It's hard to answer that question, right? But if you're taking phone calls or doing texts, then obviously you're gonna use your phone. So it's just, you know, in modern times, I would say you need both devices. You need to have a phone and you need to have a computer. So.
Well, this one it's easier. I find easier
Yeah.
because it's a big.
But keep in mind, remember when we first met that evening, I told you that's a Chromebook, and Jordan is saying it's a Chromebook as well.
Yeah.
It's not running Windows.
No.
So you can't install any Windows program on
This
that.
one here.
Yeah.
But this is a basic learning. I started from zero, so you can say. I knew nothing. Now I'm starting.
So any other questions before we stop the live stream?
I'm just waiting to see if there's any questions.
Okay, we'll just wait to see if there's any questions in the chat, and then if not, I'll stop the live stream, and then if you have any questions you were waiting for it to end, you can ask me then.
Well, the big screen now is a lot.
I'm just saying we're closing the live stream soon. Please let us know if you have any questions.
How many people are watching on the live
6
stream?
people,
On live stream?
according to what it says. It says 6 watching now, so. But what we found last time were people were dipping in and out. Like they were coming in, leaving, but as of this second, it's 6 people apparently.
And then same thing, you can also just send an email to the library's help email, as I said before, and then they can forward it to me, and then I can answer your question that way.
Okay, so let's close the live stream.